Well, let's take a look at chapter 1. So, software has been installed and you're ready to take a look at Alice. So, let's go ahead and see what it takes to build an Alice program, and then we can build a basic Alice program. Um, the author takes the approach in designing a program uh, in Alice as to the same way that someone would design and create a film. So the basics is that you start off with a story. So this is just an English version of what your program is going to do. Um, you design the basic components of the story and you break that down into what's going to happen during your story. What's the beginning, the storyline, and the end. The nouns in the story, and these are going to be called objects in Alice. And then there's the verbs, and the verbs are what do each one of these objects in your story do. So if you have an Alice object or a rabbit object, what do they do? So here's an example of a story. You notice in this story there are two different objects. One is Alice, and the other is a white rabbit. So those are the nouns in the story. The verbs, or what these objects do, you can see on each line. So the Alice object turns her head towards the user, and then in the story, the white rabbit does several things, including greets the user. Um, One of the advantages of Alice is that it is graphical, so you can actually see the code. Not only see it as you're designing it, but see as the program's running. So it's visual. It's not a text-based programming language. So you can actually draw the storyboards for each, call it scene. And the storyboard sketches, you'll draw the object, whether it be a turtle, a plane, a person, or in this case Alice, or a white rabbit. And you can draw where you want to start their position off, if any of their subparts will be moving, like limbs or things like that, and the direction that they're facing. So here's an example, a sketch of Alice and a sketch of the white rabbit. So once you have an idea of what the story is going to be, what the objects are going to be, and the flow of the program, then you can go ahead and actually start your programming. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at Alice and see how to actually create a program. One of the things that we will do is we'll create our programs using Alice's Java programming like feature. Okay, so let's take a look at adding an object to our program, and then what they call sending messages, or actually programming our Alice program. Okay, test and debug, and then we go ahead and run the program, taking a look at the code to fix any errors. And they have in the chapter they have more than one example of what you can, of how to create a program, to design the program and then write the program. Let's take a look at Alice. So I've opened Alice with the grass background, and I want to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set up the scene. And I want to go ahead and put what we call a noun or an object onto our grass scene here. So I can scroll through and find different objects that are available to me. I'm going to start off with the biped class, and I'm going to choose an adult, and I can design any adult that I want, make the choices that I want. Toddler, child, teen, adult. Click OK. Now, the name that I want to give it, it can be any adult name that I want, and it adds it onto my background. Now I can change the starting location, and this is according to the design or the sketch that I made. So if I have two objects here, I'm going to move this one over, and then I'm going to go grab another object. Snow Woman. Give my object a name. And I'm going to move my object around a bit. Okay. And that's all. Those are the only two objects I'm going to add. So I'm going to jump to the code. And what I can do, now I've got my procedures and my functions. For now, I'm just going to go to procedures. I'm going to start with my object on the left. So let me, and I called this object any adult name. Okay. And I can have my adult say custom. And then if there's something that I want the other object to do, okay, and then I can run the program to test to see if it works. Okay, so it seemed like it worked, and I can have the characters move, turn to face, turn to face the camera, turn to face the camera, and it will execute these step by step. as it goes through the program. The automatic choice is to say do in order. So in other words, do the first one, and then the next one, and then the next one. So how about this? How about if I say, Martha turned to face, and not the camera, but the other object. And then let me go over to the adult, and this adult can turn to face Martha, or the other object. And then down here on the bottom, there's a list of choices that I can add in here, and I can have them do something at the same time, or do together. Now I need to move these statements inside of here, and move the next statement inside of here, so that it's doing these statements together. So let's go ahead and run this now. They should turn to face each other, and then they should say hello at the same time. Try this. And they said hello at the same time. Okay. So, designing the program with user stories and deciding which objects you're going to use and what they're going to do, and then going in and actually creating a program. That's about it. That should get us started.